Hello?
All right, you can hear me. Now the question is, why is the video not working? I keep getting like errors every time I'm opening this thing, so I guess it's working.
Hmm.
Hmm. Do you have any idea of what would cause the video not to work?
Uh, Unless it's turned off at the top.
Yeah, it's not on the top, and I'm wondering why that's not the case. Hmm.
I mean, if you can press the button, but I don't know. Or if it's
Yeah.
like a setting on your computer outside of the Google chat.
Right, that's what I'm worried about. Sorry.
It's okay.
Um, let's see. Fuck.
I mean, we can always do it without video if you want to do it. Just sound.
Yeah, just a bit. I'll just give it a Google real quick, I guess. Um,
Yeah, you can. I mean, you can play around with it. I'm just saying.
yeah, I'll just do like we'll start in like 5 minutes or something. If
Yeah, take your time.
um, All right, I'm gonna exit the call and then enter one more time. If it doesn't, the video doesn't work, we can just go for it, I guess.
Okay.
Because you can hear me fine, right?
Yeah, I'm not having any audio problems, so.
Okay. Hmm. Hmm. Darn, all the setting pages seem to be very unhelpful. Uh-oh. Now I can't see you.
Oh yeah, I just turned my.
Hmm. Darn, all the setting pages seem to be very unhelpful. Uh-oh. Now I can't see you.
Oh yeah, I just turned my.
Oh, okay.
Off, so
Yeah, that's
you're
fair.
match.
Sounds good. All right. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I'm ready to chat whenever.
Okay. So here's how this will
Yeah,
work.
you
It'll be so it'll go live once I hit the start broadcast button on my end,
okay.
and then the off air thing in the corner will turn to on air when we're on,
Okay.
and
I see.
I'll just do a little intro, and then I'll just start asking some questions. My general plan is going to be to talk about the teams and then the individuals.
Okay.
And then I'm hoping to keep it to like a half hour max so that it will be a reasonable thing to listen to timing wise. So,
Perfect. That sounds good to me.
okay. All right. Then I am going to start up and then I'll introduce you and you can say whatever you want for your introduction.
Sounds good.
Okay. Here we go. All right, everybody. This is Jarrett Felix, also known as E-Train from the Real Train blog, ready to give you a little breakdown of the upcoming District 1 championship. You can see some of the district previews that we've already written out on the blog right now. We're going to be doing this as an audio version. We're having a little technical difficulties, but the content should still all be there. And speaking of content, we have our very own Forrest CRN back in the building. What's up, Forrest?
Hi, thanks for having me. Yeah, I used to run PA Don't Play, and I'm excited to be back in the blogosphere. My apologies for my video malfunctioning, but I'm excited to be here today.
We're pretty excited to talk about the District 1 championships coming up. A lot of drama surrounding it, and a couple of titles that are more up in the air than I think I've seen in recent years. So Forrest, right now, I'm just going to ask you straight up, which team do you think is going to win the District 1 championship this Friday?
Yeah, yeah, I think it's a great question. I'm definitely very excited to see Downingtown West and Council Rock North finally face off because we've seen a lot of different teams from across the state battle it out in some really close team battles, and those two teams haven't met yet. Um, right now, I have Downingtown West taking the meet 96-100. So I think it's going to be extraordinarily tight, needless to say. But I think that Downingtown West's spread, I think if they can keep that under 30 seconds, as they have been recently, they should be able to barely edge out Council Rock North for this title.
So just to clarify, Forrest is picking against Council Rock North right now at the district championships.
Yeah, I actually think I am, which I'm a little bit nervous about. But I mean, realistically, I'm hoping that that my team pulls it out, and I think a lot of it is gonna come up to North's fifth man, Ethan Koza, who last season actually had the best race of his career at districts, and he was able to go 20 seconds faster than he had at any previous meets and stick with their top five. And if he could be a low stick anywhere near someone like Haas, Keller, or Early, I think that this team would take it to the next level, but that would need a really big standout race from him once again.
Interesting. I guess we're in disagreement on this one. I have, not to step on my own preview too much, but I've got Council Rock North winning this one. I think that they're going to be able to pull it out. I honestly think, for starters, I think the top four is really strong, and we'll see just how strong at this meet. And obviously, Downingtown West can come back and prove differently. But I think Council Rock North has looked really solid. I think that they're a little bit more built for this course than Downingtown West. Downingtown West, for whatever reason, to me, it feels like they've been better on the Hershey course than they have been on Lehigh's course, at least in the last couple of years. So I think that Council Rock North is going to be able to get by them this weekend, and then states will be interesting. I'll decide that once we get to that point.
Yeah, certainly. I think it's really quite too difficult to make any state predictions before districts this year.
Yeah, it's pretty up in the air. So, kind of springboarding off this team talk, District 1 sends 5 teams. Who are your 5 teams right now that you think are going to make it out of District 1 to states next week?
So I think it's pretty fair to say that there's 4 teams that are sort of above the rest. Downingtown West and Council Rock North, I think, will be battling for the title. And then next I have Spring Forward. I really love their pack and what they've been doing. And Shane Inesco looks like a really nice low stick for the squad. And then after that, CB West looks fantastic again this season as well. Brian Mass is a wonderful front runner for them, and I also believe that their pack is really nice. And after that is sort of when it's going to get pretty messy, I think. It's really hard to tell. I wonder if David Endress will be back for CB East. I'm also wondering how good Conestoga is going to get over these next 2 weeks because I really like them behind Carlos Schultz, who's an incredible freshman. So the 5th has been pretty tough, but I actually think that Lower Marion might just grab it this year. Matt Giaquila is a powerful low stick for them, much better than a lot of these other teams who have nice packs, and I think that might help them move on. But I'm pretty unsure of that 5th pick right now. How about you?
Yeah, we're in the same boat on this one. I've got the same 5 teams. The top 4, I think, seem pretty safe. Springford's going to be very interesting to me because I think they have the potential to be a really good team that could maybe work up into that top tier. I don't really know exactly what, I'm not sure how good the Pioneer League was, but they really crushed the Pioneer League. And the fact that Milan Sharma ran so well at leagues now, and now they have 5 guys. Zach Smith's back and looks healthy. I mean, they just seem to be peaking at the right time. And considering how close everyone is together, we could have 5 guys down in the low 16s on this team with a couple guys under, and that would be, I think, potentially could be pretty comparable to Downtown West, and they could even maybe give them a run for their money depending on the day. So I'm pretty high on Springford. CB West convinced me this past week that they're pretty legit. I had some reservations about them, but a pretty proven program. And then I've got Lower Merion. Central League champs seem like they not only have a good top 4, but a capable 5. But the spot's pretty open. A team that neither of us have mentioned yet that I want to get your thoughts on. It's kind of a team that always seems to be in the mix. Westchester Henderson. Should we, be counting this team out as much as we have over the past couple weeks?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I think Coach K is one of the best in the entire state, and I know that he knows how to put a squad together. And sort of we've seen this come out with Mount Lebanon, for example, with them really pulling something together. And it looks like they might win the district this year after having some slip-ups earlier in the season. And I think that this could be a chance, because these teams are fairly weak, that we could see something fantastic from Henderson. I don't think we've seen Spencer Smucker look as good this year as we have in past years. But that being said, he's probably going to be a lower stick than Matt will be for Lower Merion. So I think that there's a chance here. What are your thoughts on them?
Well, I mean, I never want to count out Henderson because they've been trying to do some crazy things before. It's kind of been an interesting approach to this season. A lot of these teams kind of being under the radar, and the fact that Chestmont's was so long ago and that Henderson and Downtown West didn't even run a lot of their varsity guys at that meet. It's been a long time since we've seen a lot of these guys in action. I think Henderson's got some X factors. You have Richard, who's got a lot of track speed. We'll see how he can handle the 5K if he's running on their varsity team. You have Downing just recently coming back to the lineup, and hopefully he's healthy. Calvin Pash is a really good sophomore who's kind of an intriguing piece. They have some interesting pieces, and I think a lot of it could just come down to who's got the tightest pack. I mean, there's question marks in everybody's pack kind of at this point.
Certainly.
So, I mean, maybe they can pull through. I don't have them in right now, but I think it would be foolish to count them out. Let's see. So, personally, for me, I have a couple sleeper teams, but I want to get your potential sleeper teams that you think nobody's really talking about that you think could make it into the state meet.
Yeah, I think CBEs could be one of them. I know I certainly was pretty high on them at the beginning of the season, and they've got a lot of really great young kids. And I don't know the status of David Endress. I think when he's running, this team is much better. And he and William Schultz, or I believe his name is, work really well together. So if he can be back, maybe that's the fire that this team needs to really push them back into that conversation. But I think it will take a very, very good day for them to do that.
Yeah, CB is interesting. They're a very young team, and it's natural for a young team to have a lot of ups and downs. Yeah. I think, I think they were 4th at their league meet. Getting 4th there could be kind of the perfect thing for them to really light a fire under them going into the district meet, be motivated, and I'm definitely not ready to count them out. I think some interesting teams from the Suburban 1 National division. Pennsbury, who just always seems to be a top 10 team in recent years.
Yeah.
They're not getting a lot of talk, but they're a solid team. They don't really have necessarily a star, but I think they have the potential to put together a good pack. And William Tennett's had a really nice couple years. They haven't had that big year where they've just jumped into the top 5, but they've been around the top 10 seemingly every year. They have 2 front runners. I think they had either the winner of the JV race or one of the best guys in the JV race at Suburbans. So that's another interesting piece to maybe bolster that backpack. They could be interesting. I'm not sure that I'm going to slot them in the top 5, but they're an interesting team. And then North Penn, they had 4 really fast guys at leagues, and a couple of their guys from the early season didn't run. There's some guys who could potentially drop time. They only need one more piece, and then suddenly they look very scary as a potential state qualifying team. So they're kind of another boom bust type pick, depending on what happens at the 5 spot. So I think that's part of the intrigue going into this meet.
Yeah, just to confirm, Will Clift, William Tennant did win the JV race in 17:10, so not bad.
Right.
Yeah, and what are your thoughts on Souderton? Because I like their 2 low sticks as well. Joe Breen has really come along for these guys. And they're probably a team that's looking to be in the top 10. But sort of, maybe they could throw something together under this really strong front running that they have.
Yeah. So sorry, I think you're cutting out a little bit, but Souderton is a pretty good squad. I mean, they've had a really nice dual meet season this year, and then getting second at leagues obviously backed that up. They've got one of the potential district champions on their roster. Joe Breen's had a really good season, and if he can put together a race like he put together at leagues, he's going to be top 20-ish runner as well. And I think Paul Bohm, I think is his name, their number 3. I think he has the potential to run better than he did at leagues even, and that would give them a very solid top 3. And if their 4 and 5 just come to play and run comparably to some of these other squads that we've talked about, then they're going to be right in the mix for a top 7 spot as well. I mean, they're on my short list of teams that has become a long list of teams that could crack the top 7 teams. I've got 14 teams right now that I look at them and I say on the right day they could be top 7 in the district. So there's a lot of talent this year, and it's pretty wide open depending on who's going to have the right day.
Yeah, absolutely. I also sort of feel this way about individuals, but I don't know if you're ready to move there yet.
Yeah, let's jump there. Let's go. Let's talk the top first. We'll work top down. What do you think about the front of this race?
So I think the biggest question mark in the front of this race is Josh Hoey. We've seen him run some pretty strong races, slightly faster than he was last year, but not necessarily anything that sort of blows us out of the water. And he, in that interview, sort of was talking about how he's getting ready for track season, and it's been a tough few weeks in terms of moving schools and things of that nature. So I'm really not sure where to put him. It's Lehigh, so it's a pretty fast course, which I think gives him some advantage over some of these guys who I would say are probably more distance-oriented, especially Rusty Kudich of Neshaminy, who I actually have winning this meet. And depending on the day, I think he can go under 15:15, maybe 15:10. He could get close. But I really think that Rusty is a fantastic talent, and he's been just sort of smashing courses the past few weeks. So I think he'll take this one. In second, I actually have Connor McMenamin right now. I really liked his race this past weekend. He looks very, very strong. Like the 2 interviews that he did with PTXC and the one that he did after leagues, it's pretty clear how hard this guy's been working, and he's got a great attitude. So I think that he'll stick right up there. And he's pretty quick as well. I can't remember just how fast he went on the track, but I think that he might be able to outlast Josh Hoey, who I currently have placing 3rd.
Yeah, I mean, those I think are probably the top 3, and Liam Conway from Owen J. Roberts I expect to be in the mix as well. Josh Hoey's definitely an interesting case. I mean, obviously the kids had quite the tumultuous year with everything going on, but I mean, he's still just such a rare talent that I just have trouble believing that he's not going to be in this mix. And I think this race could potentially play to his advantage, depending on what Rusty decides to do. I mean, I think he's going to try to drop the hammer pretty early, keep the pace fast, But Josh, if he can just keep it close till the end and be able to use that speed, he can kind of just turn his brain off and just try to run and then hold on and kick. And I mean, we'll see exactly what happens. He still ran sub 1540 at Carlisle. I think he was just ahead of Dalton Hengst, who then was the spot behind Rusty at Paul Short. So I think it's going to be close between the two of those guys. And I think McMenamin's going to be up there. Connor McMenamin's interesting because I feel like he wasn't getting a lot of talk. He's probably the lone senior who has a chance to win, and maybe even the only senior that'll place in the top 5, depending on how things go in the 5th spot. Because there's been so much talent in the junior class. He's kind of flown under the radar, but this kid's really good, and he's healthy now after missing this past spring track season, and it's showing, certainly.
Yeah, he looks really good, and I would definitely agree that he's probably the best senior out of this group in terms of the top 3 or 4 runners. Yeah, and I have Liam Conway slotted at 4th. I don't. He's sort of in this middle ground, and the only thing that I think could derail him is maybe getting caught up with a big move early from Rusty, that then would sort of take some of the wheels out of him in the lower end of the race. But I don't see a lot of other people moving up to take that 4th place spot.
So out of people that were not league champions, who do you think are some of the top guys that didn't win their league that might have a big race at districts?
I have a few guys. Ryan Campbell for Council Rock North has been coming along really nicely, and last year he shot up very quickly in the final 2 meets. And he looked pretty disappointed in his interview that he didn't stick as much with Rusty. And I think that he'll make a move to be up with this top group. And I think he'll surprise a lot of people. I actually have him taking 5th in the district right now. Another one that I'm really looking at is Brandon Hans of Westchester Ruston. He ran really well against Josh at leagues. And it's hard to tell just how fast he can go. Because I wasn't really sure just how hard Josh was running, but I think that he could be a pretty special person to watch. The other guys that I'm kind of looking at are quite a few of the Downingtown West guys, like Sean Bullock, Drew Lansky, and how fast they can go on this district course, because I'm pretty unsure of that as well. And then also one other name other than Spencer Smucker that I'd like to throw out there would be Avery Lederer, because I think that this course probably matches him better than a lot of these other runners. And I know that him and James Abrams have been going back and forth, and I think that he'll nip Abrams at this race as well. So those are a couple guys who are on my radar.
Yeah, I think those top Central League guys, they've had a pretty solid year. Abrams, Theoquil, and Lederer. And
yeah, it's a special group.
Yeah, and hopefully they can all push each other, at the front of this race. Some of the other guys we didn't mention, I like the William Tennant guys, Hudden and Rahal. I'm pretty high on Ryan Campbell as well. I've got him 5th also on my list, looking at it real fast. Some guys maybe going a little bit farther down, but not too much farther down. Matt Scarpel is going to be interesting. He was a guy who ran sub 16 last year, and then unfortunately didn't qualify for states at districts, but he's run awesome this year. He's a big talent, and I'm hoping that he breaks through this year and has that big state qualifying race. And he's definitely got the talent too. I'm also going to be watching for Austin Maxwell from Kennett. I think he's had a really solid career, always seems to be in the mix in the Chestmont. And I wasn't too high on the Chestmont guys in, a lot of my rankings and things this season, but this is a league that always seems to show up at the end of the season, and maybe it's a down year for them, but I have a hard time imagining that we're not going to see, a big showing from the Chestmont teams at this meet, just knowing their history. And Maxwell's one of those guys who maybe could come through and surprise with a top finish. We'll see, I guess, exactly how it's going to play out.
Yeah, I'm pretty high on Maxwell. I've got him 16th on my list, right behind Scarpill, actually. And I feel like Maxwell has always been in the conversation or right on the fringe of the conversation. And I think that he could have a really big race. I think the States course is probably where he'll shine a little bit more than at districts, but I think that he'll be on the medal stand for certain.
All right. So let's move on to what I think is an interesting question. I was looking at the potential leaders in each class, and obviously we've talked about the talented juniors. We've talked about some of the top seniors. We even mentioned Carlos Schultz already from Conestoga, who looks like the top freshman. The sophomore class this year, a little bit more up for grabs. Who do you have as some of the top sophomores to watch for in the district meet?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm not great right now, to be honest, with the classes, but is Patrick Power a sophomore?
Patrick's a senior. Joseph is the sophomore.
Joseph is the sophomore. Yeah, I've been, I think that he could have a pretty good race. But again, he didn't necessarily show up as potentially expected at his league meet. I feel like CB West might have a couple guys because again, I think David Endress was one of the big sleepers that we thought going into this year, or at least I did, and he hasn't been racing. So that's sort of where I am with this right now. Yeah, I would agree that I think that Carlos Schultz might be the top underclassman in that he could beat the rest of the sophomores actually in this race as a freshman, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean it's the sophomore class pretty wide open. Definitely hasn't been a class that we've talked about a lot within the district, and even I guess within the state in general. But a couple names that I picked out. Obviously, I knew what I was going to ask before we started, which you didn't. So I had the chance to get some names. But James Conway from Unionville.
Yeah.
He's an interesting guy. Unionville always seems to have kids in the mix for that state qualifying bubble. Conway looked pretty good at the Henderson meet on the track. We'll see how he can translate that to Lehigh's course. Kyle Hans from Hatboro Horsham. That's another school that seems to always churn out kids that are in the mix for state qualifying, and he's been their top guy at a lot of meets this season. Alvin Pash, I mentioned from Henderson earlier, also a sophomore, and then North Penn's got a couple of talented sophomores on their roster, Brian Johnson and Nick Cataldi. So there's some interesting sophomores. I can't imagine that there's not going to be a sophomore in the top 25 guys,